Hello, welcome to Six Tackles with Gus for another week. We're here thanks to Tab, and we're just hours away from the start of round 21 of the competition. The run to the finals is on in earnest, and a big game tonight at Allianz that you'll see live and free on 9. The Roosters need to beat the Storm, really, to maintain realistic aspirations of playing in the finals. Gus, welcome.
Matthew Thompson, how you doing?
I'm going well. I'm a little nervous.
Why?
It's been a decidedly quiet week in rugby league.
In your world, maybe.
Oh, you got a bit going on.
Got plenty going on. Always got stuff going on.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Like what?
Well, stuff. Can't tell you too much.
You don't give much away. Plenty to talk about. I know we're a fair way past last weekend, but gee, the back half of that round, what about the finishers? They were all nail-biters.
Yeah, they were. They were. Warriors had to struggle to beat the Knights.
Struggle?
Bulldogs had to struggle to beat the Dragons. Storm struggled and couldn't beat Manly. Yeah. Who had the bye? The Brisbane Broncos had the bye.
Broncos had the bye. A lot of them were playing golf. They went to Bonneville.
Oh, good luck to them.
Adam Reynolds, a mad golfer.
Yeah. A lot of the footballers like golf. Yeah.
Is there any golfers at Canterbury?
As golfers, they make very good footballers.
They do.
Yeah.
Who are your golfers? Who are the Bulldogs golfers?
There's a few of them go out. Matt Burton leads a golfing group. He goes out with them, plays a bit of golf.
Does he hit it out of sight? Have you seen him hit the golf ball?
Yeah, he does.
I bet he would.
Yeah, on every shot and in every direction. I don't know how much finesse he's got.
No. Is he a lefty?
Don't know. I think he's a righty.
Yeah, right.
Kicks left-footed. I think he plays right-handed.
I always find that peculiar. People that not ambidextrous, but do some things
left-handed
and right-handed.
Yeah.
For instance, David Warner is ambidextrous, but obviously battered left-handed, but he plays golf right-handed, and I think he's off about one or two. And I'm pretty sure Adam Gilchrist is the same.
There was a famous Australian golfer who was one of the older ones. I'm trying to think of his name. Might have been David Graham.
It was David Graham.
Who grew up as a left-hander, and his coach made him turn around and play right-handed.
That's right.
And back in those days, mainly the golfing coaches made them change over because there wasn't enough equipment. They only made equipment for right-handers. They didn't actually make the better equipment for left-handers. So they made him switch around the other way. But all the professional golfers can play right and left-handed. They're actually all pretty adept at it. There's plenty of YouTube clips of fellas playing ambidextrous. Always say that left-handed cricketers and left-handed golfers and left-handed kickers seem to hit the ball so sweetly.
They do.
When they do. There's a different rhythm to a left footer or a left-hander sometimes. Left-handed bowlers, and they bat right-handed. I can't keep up.
Dear, oh, dear, oh.
500 games for Des Hasler this weekend. Gus, my question is, will he be remembered as a legendary coach?
Yeah, I think so. I think he'll be remembered as a legend of the game. I mean, he's a great player, international class player, premiership winning player, premiership winning coach. I mean, contributions, 500 games as an NRL coach. It's a pretty fair dig, isn't it? There's only 4 or 5 have done it, half a dozen, isn't it?
5.
5 that have
He'll
done
be
it.
the 6th.
Yeah.
Bennett, Sheens, Smith, Bellamy, Stewart.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how you do it for that long, but anyway. And if you're in it for a long time, you're going to have your ups and downs. You're going to have your good and your bad. And Des has probably seen both sides of the spectrum there, but he's always been an extremely competitive fellow, always interesting, very much player conscious. Players always tend to love him when they play for him. And he's had a wonderful dig, but Des Hasler will be a legend of the game for his contributions as both a player and a coach.
Yeah. I work a bit with Josh Morris on the continuous call team, and he loves Des Hasler because he was coached by him for a large chunk of his career. But I often say to him, I have no idea how Des communicates so effectively with his players, because when you see him speak to the media, he's a gibbering, dithering, mumbling weirdo.
Maybe he doesn't like the media.
But that's his facade.
Maybe he doesn't like the media.
That's his facade.
I think he was a school teacher.
He was a school teacher.
Yeah, so he's got the communication skills. I've got no doubt about that. And when you talk to Des privately, he's very succinct in what he wants and, getting a message across. I've never found a communication problem with Des at all. Sometimes...
But you know the interviews I'm talking about when we talk to him pre-game?
Yeah, I laugh at him.
It's hilarious.
I laugh.
Jibbers his way through.
I laugh at the Wayne Bennett interviews because it's nothing like him. Like when you talk to him in person, it's nothing like what he presents to the media. Nothing. Not even in the same postcode. A lot of them are like that. But, you know, they have one sort of media persona and then they have a private persona and, they're both are real footy blokes. They're old-fashioned footy blokes. That's what they are. And they like being around footballers.
Titans have got the better of Desi though, haven't they? The Titans have worn him down. Man.
They've still got some work to do, haven't they? Like I was saying on 100% footy the other night, I mean, and I'll say it again, I don't think there should be cameras in the dressing rooms. I think it's unfair on everybody, and I think it's intrusive. I think that's a sanctity and a privacy that should be kept. I've never agreed with it. I've never agreed with camera. I don't mind handheld cameras coming in. If they want to bring the cameraman in, then you know the light's on and the camera is on. But I don't like the candid stuff. I don't like the way it's used and sometimes what they use it for. So I'm against microphones on the field. I don't think the microphones should be on the field as well. I just think there are some places where the public are not entitled to go. And you know, I know it sounds sexy for broadcasters and people covering the game, and they think it's interesting, but you know, I'm always been against it. I know I've never changed my view on that.
With the cameras, I heard your comments about the cameras in the dressing room. Sure, and there may well be some guidelines around it. I'm not familiar with what they are, but surely you can't have access to vision from the time you turn the camera on to the time you turn the camera off.
Well, they do, because I've seen it. I've seen vision. I've seen vision getting around.
Well, that doesn't seem fair.
Well, it's not. Over the years, I've said that, over the years. And if there's a really big issue, like they'll use it, they'll make it public. I've always said it's grossly unfair, both fair on the player. The players and the coaches give so much of themselves, all right? There needs to be some private things. And I even say on the field, you shouldn't have the microphones on the field. I've always been a disbeliever in that. You know, if you want the referee to talk to the crowd, let him turn a switch and talk to the crowd. But other than that, we should.
Oh, you mean the ref mic?
Yeah, we shouldn't hear what's on the field. We don't need to hear what's on the field, and we don't really need to see what's in the dressing rooms. You know, for what we use it for, we could do without it. I don't know how it gives any insight or any interest whatsoever. Maybe that's to me because I've been in 1,000 dressing rooms. You know, maybe generous to the public, you know, get turned on by what they see in the dressing rooms, but. I think there is a sanctity there and a privacy there. If you want to walk a camera in pre-match or at halftime, that's fine. As long as everyone knows the light's on, the camera's there, okay, I know I'm in shot, et cetera, et cetera. But the candid cameras, no, I don't believe in it. And I don't believe in them using it, particularly post-game and at different times there when players and coaches are unaware that the camera might be on or they've forgotten that the camera is on.
That's what I mean by the guidelines. And again, as I say, I don't know what they are. But
either do I.
You surely in that situation at the weekend where Des is about to give his team a dressing down, he should be able to do so without considering that there might be someone watching on.
Yeah.
Because the game's finished.
Yeah, and he was pulling players out of the shower. I mean, you know, half.
Well, there shouldn't be vision of blokes in the shower.
No, half of them could have been naked or whatever, walking around or whatever. I don't agree with any of it. I never have. I never understood why the game permitted it. You know, broadcasters will keep asking because, you know, they'll look into your lunchbox if they can.
I don't mind. I like the again, as somebody who hasn't had the privilege like you have of being in those dressing rooms, I think it's interesting when you see the tension in a dressing room when a team's about to run out, for instance, or even in an origin environment. Like, I find that interesting. But, you know,
but if there was never a camera in there, you wouldn't miss it.
Well, probably not. The one I get nothing from on-field interviews and stuff like that. I find mind numbing.
Years and years ago, we never had cameras in dressing rooms, and we never had microphones on fields.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
So there was a you know, when it first happened. Oh, well, that's interesting. Yeah, but if we never had it, we wouldn't miss it. It's not something we would miss. Now that they've given it to them, people will probably be, you know, oh, well, you shouldn't take it away. But I'd do it in a heartbeat. I'd take the microphones off the field. I'd take the microphones off the referees.
Would you really take the mics off the ref?
100%.
But then we'd be sitting there going, what on earth's that about? What's he giving that penalty for?
I go to 1,000 games a year where I don't know what the referees and players are saying on the field. I sit there and watch New South Wales Cup, Ron Massey Cup, Jersey Flegg, SG Ball. I watch junior league games everywhere. You should be deaf to what's happening on the field. We don't need to know. If you need the referee to explain a decision, then let him turn his mic on and explain the decision, if we think we need to hear that. But 9 times out of 10, we don't. We've given it to the public, so it's hard to take it away. But the bottom line is it's created a lot of other issues.
The Warriors and Knights finish last Sunday was the footy gods' best work.
No, footy gods couldn't do that to anyone.
The footy gods produced a horror movie for
Wouldn't
the
do
poor
that.
old Newcastle fans.
I don't know who the footy gods thought they were supporting. It was all over the shop, wasn't it? Yeah, I mean, I've seen some crazy finishes on YouTube. If you go onto YouTube and look at crazy sporting finishes, you'll come up with some really bizarre finishes out of the people have posted out of junior league games and, junior league sport and all that sort of thing. But so far as an NRL game, and I'd imagine there have been some crazy finishes, but nothing like that. Those last couple of minutes was absolutely insane. Insane. And he's quite a talent, the boy who scored the try.
I reckon he's Rookie of the Year.
Well, I was asked on social media a few weeks ago who I'd have as Rookie of the Year, and I put his name down. Now, I think he debuted last year.
Yeah, but I reckon he played like 2 or 3
I only
games.
think he played a couple of games.
Have a look.
He'd be eligible, I think, for Rookie of the Year this year, but he's been impressing me all season. I put his name down, and lo and behold, 2 weeks later I'm calling the game, and there's Lika Helasima scoring a try virtually after the siren off a bizarre turnover to score the try.
So I think 5's the cutoff.
Yeah, I think he'll qualify.
I think he qualifies.
Yeah.
He's fast and he's powerful. He's not even 100 kilos,
He's
he's
evasive. He's got great. He nearly scored a try like that against us, against the Bulldogs at Acor last year. Very, very similar. Ran 40 or 50 metres. Got pulled down right on the line. Never got the ball down. Very, very similar circumstance. But that was bizarre on the weekend. The whole, penalty, the charge down, incredible. The field goal from Newcastle into the wind that went right over the black dot. I mean, skimmed the upright of the crossbar as it went across. Gee, they played well. They deserved to win. They bombed about 3 or 4 tries. They should have won on the weekend, the Knights. But just adds to their misery a little bit. They'll be pleased with their performance, though.
Yeah, they certainly aimed up. On current form, Gus, Blake Brayley is the best dummy half in the comp right now.
No.
Well, I think it starts and stops with Harry Grant. I think he's on a level at his own. Blake is a player that I've really admired for a long period of time. So durable, so reliable, and even now his football's improving despite the fact that he's played all these games. He seems to be getting better. I thought that his performances the other night, I was astonished at the result of that game. I really thought the Roosters could trouble the Sharks, and they were virtually never in it. We might talk a little bit about that later. And the Roosters, I just couldn't believe their performance. I'm really looking forward to seeing them playing tonight and see whether or not they can turn that around. But the last couple of weeks, as the Sharks have I've made the comment that we haven't seen their best all season, but their better football comes when he is running the ball, when he's actually doing something out of dummy half. And in previous weeks, they haven't really tapped into him, but now they're starting to preempt when he's going to run, and they can anticipate when he's about to. And if they can do that, if Trindle and Hines can tap into him, Kennedy can tap into him, well, it'll give them another string to their bow. They're pretty impressive, the Sharks. I've said all along, they haven't had their best form yet, and they're going to hit it maybe at the right time of the year.
Yes,
he's a good player. He's having some contractual issues with them, from what I hear. But
yeah, I read that.
Yeah, I think
they won't be letting him go.
Well, you would think not, and you would hope not. But I think as the Perth franchise becomes a reality, and they start to filter their tentacles out and their inquiries about players that might be able to go across the west there, and the sort of money that they can pay, it gives the managers plenty of bargaining power. So, players that are coming off contract in the next 12 or 18 months have got plenty of hand. They've got plenty of hand.
I got a bit of mail about the Perth Bears.
Yeah.
I've had to tell James Bracey just to rein it in a little bit.
What's that?
He's spending all the money.
James?
He's already signed 50 players.
Has he?
Promised them too much money.
Yeah. Well.
The salary cap's an ass.
Yeah.
He's already blown it up.
Yeah,
He signed Greg Florimo, Mark Soden, David Fairley, Jason Taylor.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a big job for them putting a team together from scratch in this day and age, but it's going to add, inflationary pressures to everything else in the game, and clubs are going to want to retain their players, and those that are off contract are going to have the bargaining hand. That's just the way our game works at the moment. November 1 this year will have greater importance, which means the clubs that get a chance to re-sign their players before November 1 are pretty much active now trying to get it done, so that they don't become available for Perth. Very interesting times coming up.
The protection of kickers in general play has gone too far.
There's a lot of things in our game that have gone too far, Matthew. A lot of things.
That's it. I'm going to start.
There are a lot of things in our game have gone too far, and it's no good me discussing it because that horse has bolted, my friend. There's going to be no reining that in. But we should never have opened the door to it many, many years ago.
But surely there's scope to apply some common sense.
Common sense and rugby league don't always go hand in hand, my friend. Look, I could talk for hours on this subject and it would get us nowhere, and would only give me greater frustration. I've nearly got into the point where I just become a spectator and don't care about it anymore, because I've been long critical of the road that our game has gone down, our overreaction and overreach, the way we've educated our referees, the way we've educated our fans, the way we've educated our media on the way this game that should be played. And there are a lot of negatives to that for me, but I come from a different era and a different time. And if people want to take the moral high ground on what our game should look like and feel like, people tend to sway with that. So our game is a professional sport. It's a professional sport based on winning. It's played by highly professional players who prepare their bodies and their minds for the battle that they're about to undertake. I think our coaches and players do an outstanding job with the way that our rules are and the overreach of our rules and the overreach of our officialdom and the overreach of referees. I think they do an outstanding job. But I also know they're extremely frustrated with the game that they're asked to play. Extremely frustrated with. And it makes it also difficult, and it also detracts from our game. And I'm not talking about everyone worries about this, welfare of players. Players aren't worried about the welfare of players. They're out there playing. And somehow that we need to make the professional game safe for kids to play is a misnomer. It's ridiculous. It's up to parents and school teachers and junior league coaches to explain the difference between what's right and wrong in what have you. The professional code should come with a warning, don't try this at home. This is the professional code. It's a different sport, played by different people. Your junior league and your recreational sport is a different sport, and it's up to the coaches and the teachers and the players and the parents to educate them on what's right from wrong. But holding the professional players to account on the physicality of their game simply so that, my grandmother could play it has been wrong, and I've been against it. But you're yelling into the wind, mate.
Well, the reason I wanted to talk about this particular matter.
Does any of that make sense?
No, it makes absolute sense, and I think your opinion on that is a matter of public record. But Andrew Johns, and we mentioned him last week, and this isn't a PR machine for Andrew's column, but he does have his finger on the pulse, particularly in respect to this matter, because he's been an advocate, as you know, of protecting playmakers. But he says today in his column that the inability really now of defenders to pressure playmakers with respect to their kicking in the first instance has actually made the game quite predictable and boring. And it's a point that I'm glad he raised that, because obviously I call a lot of footy, and the last 6 weeks or so, I've sort of started to think this 5-up for a high kick into the cage, as they call it now, with defenders not even bothering to go near the halfback. It's kind of rinse and repeat stuff.
Yeah. There are a lot of aspects to this. It's just not the protection of the kickers, but the protection of the passers, the tackling the man who looks like he's getting the ball but doesn't get it. There are a lot of things that have been eradicated from the game. But let me say, and with all due respect, and I think Andrew understands this now, Andrew and Brad Fittler were very responsible for that, for the campaign that they ran. When they first joined our commentary team many, many years ago, I remember sitting in a pre-season meeting, Graham Annesley was coming in to show us something else they were going to do with the bunker or whatever and that sort of thing. And Andrew raised this issue, and he kept raising it repeatedly in commentary about ball players being hit after they pass the ball. And he campaigned pretty hard for it. So, and I at the time argued with them about it. I argued with them in that meeting. I said, look, be careful what you do here, because if you give them the scope, this could change a lot of things. And you blokes played in an era where you weren't overly protected, all right? And you learned to protect yourselves, and you've come out of it okay. Like, that is the game. You can't just put them in, a red shirt and say you can't touch them. And they had all good intention, Brad and Andrew, and I love them dearly, and I coached them both. But I said to them, just be careful here about the campaign that you're running, because there will be overreach on this, and there has been. But Andrew's been backtracking for 12 months now because he's seen...
Well, he's seen that it's gone beyond what he imagined.
Beyond what he imagined. I know what he was trying to eradicate. I understand the thing that he was saying.
There was a lot of that. Remember, like, halfbacks would throw the ball and they'd relax, and blokes would come in from the side and smash them.
Yeah.
That was the kind of thing that was worrying him.
In my era, you never relaxed. All right?
Yeah.
You never relaxed. Self-protection and self-preservation was part of our game, all right, which the modern-day player knows nothing about. Right? The number of modern-day players that get, incidental contact with the head would never have happened in our day, because you would have protected yourself from it. Because now they run without fear or whatever, or without protection in what they do. And people say, they shouldn't have to protect themselves. Well,
the league would say in relation to that we want the game to be played in a manner that everyone knows that they're not at risk of being maimed by unfair play.
No one's out to maim anyone, but people are going to get hurt, mate.
As a coach, if you've got a halfback that goes into the line, like Katoa does, for instance, you'd want your defenders to hit him. But it's not to hurt him, because it's the job of the defensive team to pressure the playmaker.
Discourage him, to put it in two minds.
Yeah.
The sooner he gets rid of it, the better.
So that's a fundamental of the game.
He's got to feel the pressure. But that's been a part of our game for years and years and years. Intimidation,
it feels like that's being eroded a little bit.
Yeah, intimidation was a huge part of our game. And it should be a part of professional sport. And I applaud Andrew now for coming out and saying it, because he's someone who they will listen to and they will have an influence. But he's knowing too that it was probably his campaign when he started in commentary that led to a lot of what we've got today. I think our players and coaches do an outstanding job.
They do an outstanding job, Gus.
Despite the scrutiny and the pressure that they're put under and the way they're penalised for it.
Gee, the Samoan team's going to be strong for the Pacific Champs.
They're all going to be strong.
If the hammer goes, and Payne Haas...
25 years ago, I wrote about the power of the Pacific Islands and how it should be cultivated and what have you. Look at these teams that are going to come up at the end of the year.
Pretty incredible.
Incredible.
The only caveat I would put on this, and I actually called Brad Fittler to talk to him about it this morning, because the whole eligibility thing is something that he's thinking about at the moment. We've got the Pacific Champs, but running concurrently is the Kangaroo Tour. And players that would normally have...
You're going to talk about eligibility again.
Well, no, I don't want to talk about that, but I'm just wondering, there clearly needs to be a recalibration of it all, because people like the Hammer and Haas, etc., have been regulars for the Australian team, and Stephen Crichton and these sorts of guys who obviously went to Samoa a little while ago, Jerome Luai, etc. I don't know what Kangaroos team's going to go to England.
Well, the best Australian team will go to England. That's who'll go to England. We've got enough players to field the team, don't we?
Oh, well, yes, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Why wouldn't we want other nations? Why wouldn't we want international football to blossom? International football is a completely different thing. It's a completely different thing. It should not be affected by our own domestic competitions or our own domestic rep football. International football is a great product for the game. We want as many countries participating, and we want them to be as strong as possible. As it turns out, 99% of these players will be educated, developed, and play in the NRL here in Australia, which is why I wanted the NRL to own international football and treat it as the product that it can be, because I do think the international game will sell the game greater than our domestic game will. The international game will sell our game even greater than our domestic game if nations are strong, and we've got a competitive world environment at this level, and we can have it. In New Zealand, the Pacific Island nations, we've got to get Great Britain strong. We've got to get, I'd love to get France back up to speed. I'd love to see it played in other countries as well, but that's a ways down the track. And other countries will come into it if there is credibility in an international competition. And it's something that other codes can't really do. Now, getting the Pacifica teams and the New Zealand teams as strong as possible means they have to play in the NRL competition to get developed to do that, to learn the game at that level. And they should be eligible. If they are eligible to play Pacific Island nations, that's who they should play for, if they choose to do so. That's who they should play for. We've got plenty of players here in Australia that can play for Australia. Plenty of players. And the qualifications for Origin and the qualifications for club football should have nothing to do with the international stage. I don't understand what's so difficult for people to understand about that.
Well, just with the representation of Pacifica players in the NRL, naturally, going forward, they're going to get even stronger, these Pacific Island nations. And in fact, in 10 years' time, they'll probably beat Australia.
Great. Tonga beat us a few years ago.
Of course they did. And Samoa have been in World Cup finals.
What's wrong with that?
Well, nothing's wrong with that.
No. But what happened years ago? Well,
what about with Origin?
If you qualify to play State of Origin, you should be eligible for State of Origin. It should have no bearing on the international game. Zero, zilch, nana. There's no reason for it to have a bearing on the international qualification. If you come to Australia and you qualify and you play junior football here in Australia and you play junior rep football here in Australia, why can't you play senior rep football here in Australia? Our senior football is the best versus the best, New South Wales versus Queensland. When State of Origin came into being, I've said this 1,000 times, in 1980, when State of Origin came into being, where was rugby league played? The major competition was here in Sydney.
It was an Anglo-Saxon game played in
It was an Anglo-Saxon game played in 2 states of Australia. Right? That was the qualification for State of Origin, whether you were born in Queensland or born in New South Wales. All right? Because that was our game at the time. Our game is anything but that now. The demographics of our game are anything but that now.
Which is great.
You know, like we get a situation where Semi Radradra was encouraged not to play for Fiji because to wear the green and gold. Why? Because the green and gold wanted to win. They wanted the best player. And I'm saying, how childish is that? We've got plenty of wingers. Why do we need Semi Radradra to come and play for Australia? No, he's a great player, but he should be playing for Fiji. That's his country. And if kids from Pacific Island come here and they're born here in Australia, like if you get a Pacific Island kid with Pacific Island heritage who is born in Australia and sees himself purely as Australian and has no affinity with his country of heritage and wants to play for Australia, what's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. But to respect his family or respect his heritage or whatever it is, if he grows up and says, I want to play, and there is an appeal now to play with Samoa and play with Tonga, right? There's no need to have an each-way bet now. Oh, if I don't make Australia, then I'll go and play for one of them. I want to play for Australia, but then I can go play for one of them if I can't. No.
It's one or the other.
You qualify and you go. It's as simple as that. There is now enough international football to suffice. You know, when Sonny Bill walked out of rugby league to go and play rugby because he couldn't play State of Origin, even though he played State of Origin under 16s and under 18s for New South Wales, he couldn't play the Open age because he'd elected to play for New Zealand, which was his country of heritage. All right, they wouldn't let him do it, so he went and played rugby. But for me, the strength of the Tonga and the Samoa team is what's going to make our game great. It's what's going to sell it.
No doubt.
It's what's going to sell it. I'm telling you, in the future, I won't live to see it, you will, but in the future, the strength of this game will be on the international stage. This is what will sell our game and make it bigger. It's on the international stage. And that's why the NRL has to be in charge of it, because all the players need to be developed here. Where else are you going to develop NRL players? We can't develop NRL players anywhere but in NRL system, not in state league system, not in junior leagues, not in New Zealand, not in Pacific Island, in Tonga. And you can put all the academies you like over there. You're not going to develop NRL talent unless they're here in the NRL pathway system. Therefore, it is the NRL that should be in control of the international product. And it should have no bearing on our domestic representative product, the Origin. When Origin was forged and what it was 45 years ago, that's 45 years ago. You know, the world's changed. Move on, baby.
I'm going to move on. Gus, Angus Bowen. You've signed a young lad called Angus Bowen
You're going to talk haircuts here, aren't you?
I saw a picture of Angus Bowen's haircut yesterday, and I thought it was like
Isn't
an
there an
AI.
ad? Isn't there an ad on TV with a haircut like this?
Yeah, there is. Yeah. But when I saw it, I thought it was like one of those digitally altered images that reinforce that you've got the worst haircuts in the comp. But then now I'm alerted to the fact that Angus Bowen is a real person, and that is his real haircut. Now, what on earth is happening? Is the first thing that you're going to do when he starts is get him a haircut? What is that?
I saw Angus play the other day. He played pretty good, so I don't want him to change a thing.
Man.
He might be like Samson.
Has he not got a mirror? What's doing?
It's not the worst I've seen.
That's the worst I've ever seen.
That's not the worst I've seen.
Oh, you've seen some bad haircuts because that sucks.
We've got a few similar ones, actually.
Well, yeah, Jacob. But that makes Jacob Preston look respectable.
Yeah.
How old's he?
Be 18, I think.
Oh, right. Where's he play?
17 or 18. Forward.
Oh, imagine if someone trotted out a haircut like that at Newtown back in the day. They'd rip it out of his head.
Oh, wait on. Go back and get me some pictures of 70s footballers and their haircuts, please.
That's probably
Were you
true.
born then? When were you born?
Early 80s.
Early 80s. You, mate, 70s. The haircuts in the 70s, crikey. Go back and look at them now.
They'd rip it out of his head.
Fashion and haircuts.
Oh, Kerry Hemsley was a famous one, wasn't he? That was a good mullet. But no one would dare touch his hair.
There was some, let's carry Hemsley over there. There were some great haircuts. Mullets and different things.
Where's this proliferation of the modern day mullet come from?
I can't answer.
I don't know where it's come from.
I'm not a slave to fashion, mate.
Yeah.
Some of these look like Bon Jovi or really weird music back in the 70s.
Anyway, yes, Angus Bowen. Good luck, Angus. But my recommendation would you to be go and see a barber around Belmore ASAP. But just don't go with Jacob Preston or Jamin Salmon.
Barbers around Belmore mightn't be able to help you.
Well, that's the haircut of choice.
We get some weird haircuts walking into training where we are. We've lost that battle, baby. We've lost that battle.
You might need to employ.
In the old days, you used to be saying, "Go and get that cut off," or "Go and get this," and go. You can't do it anymore.
You might need to employ a barber, a casual barber.
Well, actually, they cut their own hair. They all do barber courses and cut their own hair. There are fellas that are walking around with snippers all the time, and they do. On game day, they cut each other's hair and particularly
on
the young
game
ones.
day?
Yeah, the young ones, if they're going to be on TV.
Oh, seriously?
Put those little slits in their hair.
Oh, no, the slits are no good. And the eyebrow one as well. My kids have started getting them. Do you know, they know how I'm so anti the eyebrow slit that my youngest son made up a story the other day that someone accidentally did it. They slipped with the clippers and it accidentally got him in the eye.
No.
Well, yeah, called BS on that.
I'll tell you what you can do. You can get a time travel machine. You can drop me back in the 80s anytime you like. Just drop me back there and leave me there, and I'll be as happy as well. Get rid of mobile phones, get rid of technology, get rid of social media, just go back to when life was
You wouldn't have
simple.
Claude.
Eh?
You wouldn't have Claude to help you.
Wouldn't need Claude.
You don't need Claude.
No.
You and Claude had a falling out.
In the 80s? In the 80s?
Claude wouldn't cope in the
You give
80s.
Claude an uppercut. He wouldn't
Claude
worry about
wouldn't
Claude.
cope in the 80s. He wouldn't know what hit him.
He wouldn't know.
Gus?
In the
Please.
80s, we used to pull over the side of the road to use a public phone.
Oh, no. What would Claude say about the 80s, do you think?
I'll ask Claude. How was life in the 80s?
Gus, what have you got me into?
Time travel, you can pick me up and drop me back in the 80s anytime you like. I'll wave you goodbye and say best of luck. I'm more than happy to go back and live in that era.
What would be the first thing you'd do if you got back into the 80s?
I'll probably back the winner of the 88 Melbourne Cup or something.
That'd help.
Yeah.
What footy ground would you go to first?
I go to them all. I went to them all in the
Yeah, I know, but which one would you be?
Life was just, I think about it sometimes, like life growing up and in Sydney and how different it is these days and what our kids have to contend with these days. And I don't want to get all philosophical, but, there have been great advancements in medicine and technology, there are great things about the modern world. There really are. But a lot of it's not good. A lot of it's not good.
If you were back in the 80s, you'd have to drive your old Ford Fairmont up the Great Western Highway, though. It'd take you 3 hours.
Governments, politics are out of control. Woke environments are out of control. The world's out of control.
What's going on here?
The world's out of control. mate.
I've opened up a Pandora's box.
I would hate to be being born in this era. We got the best of it, I'm telling you. We got the best of it,
131873.
Rugby league was a second job. It wasn't your main job. We got the best of it. I'm telling you, I'm glad I lived in the era I did.
Beam me up, Scotty.
Beam me up. Take me back to the 80s. I'll bid you good farewell. Back I go.
Podcast what invented in
See,
the 80s.
hear that comedian, a funny comedian. He said, he said, if it was time travel, he said, if I could go back into the past, he said, if I could go back to the 1920s, he said, I don't think I could even prove that I was from the future. He said, I'm not intelligent enough. When was the favourite time in your life? When was the favourite time of your life? When you think about the favourite time of your life?
Right here, right now.
Oh, really? Well, there you go.
Just because I'm sitting here talking to you.
Drop me back in the 80s.
Ampol Power Surge time, which is brought to you by Ampol, which is powering Australia's own sporting nation. Now, I'm going to throw this one at you without any notice whatsoever. We've been talking about the Ashes, okay, and Great Britain teams. Give us your top 3 best English players ever.
Top 3 best
English players.
Top 3 best English players. Malcolm Reilly. Top 3 best English players. Malcolm Reilly.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Burgess.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll toss up Adrian Morton was a favourite of ours, but
Ellery Hanley?
Ellery Hanley was a great English player.
Oh, here we go. Jordan's pulled up a whole short list. Not that you need it.
My first experience of England was going out to the Sydney Cricket Ground to watch a 3-test series. There were 2 tests in England and 2 tests in Sydney and 1 in Brisbane. First test in Sydney, we went out and I sat at the back of the Sheridan stand, which was the southern stand. And in those days, there was no reserved seats. So Dad took off early in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, and went out and parked at Moore Park. And he'd get in when the gates opened, and then Mum would bring my brother and I out in the afternoon. And
Really?
yeah, and he'd have programs and blankets on the seats at the back of the Sheridan stand, and we watch it. And
That's amazing.
I'll never forget these scenes. Mum took us into the Sheridan stand, like 1966, 1968.
So he left home at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, he had to line up outside the cricket ground. When in the 1977 and 79 grand finals, I slept at the cricket ground.
Yeah, you've told me this.
Yeah, but there was no reserved seats. You just ran in and got seats and laid on the seats. And
It's actually kind of a bit like that now when you go to the cricket. You line up at the members' gate. You have to put your sticker on the seat. We got there. Who played last summer? Was it India? Yes, it was.
Yeah.
We got there, I reckon, at 8 o'clock in the morning before the gates had opened.
Yeah.
And as soon as we were miles up the street and people were pouring and we couldn't get a seat.
Yeah.
We were there 3 hours for the first ball.
And I don't think Dad could have paid for the ticket. He had his police pass. He probably knew someone on the gate to get himself in. And then he got, and then we sat at the back of the Sheridan stand. And I remember at 3 o'clock, I'll never forget these scenes at 3 o'clock at the cricket ground, the old cricket ground with the Barongal stand and the green roofs and the member stand over there in the distance and the smoke haze above the ground. Beautiful clear day. The smoke, because everyone's smoking.
I know.
Everyone was smoking.
I can't believe it.
Australia ran out because they were the home team. In the old days, the home team used to run out first. And then no music, no fanfare, but the English team walked out. And it was Tommy Bishop and Roger Millwood and, these sort of players. And they were phenomenal footballers. They were great footballers. And Alan Hardesty and those sort of fellas. This is back in the 60s. And they came out and I was falling in love with rugby league at this stage. And they beat Australia twice in that Test series. I think
The Australian side would have been a good side in the 60s.
Yeah, it was a good side. I remember a bloke from the Eastern Suburbs because Alan McKean played fullback. He might have kicked 7 or 8 goals on the day. And we still lost. There were penalty goals from scrums and everything in those days. But I remember that series really well, and I went out to the series that Arthur Beetson played in and Malcolm Reilly played in.
Was it violent?
Violent, yeah, violent. But that's,
Because that's what the old school English footballer, that's the reputation they came with, wasn't it? Like being violent and bloodthirsty.
You talk to them old footballers, one of them have passed away now, but you talk to those old footballers and about what football. Well, when I first started playing in the mid-70s, it was a violent, brutal game, like really violent and brutal. But I used to love that was my endearing memory of my first taste of international football, was at the cricket ground and watching that England team slowly walk out. I'd never seen a team walk out before. They just walked out in single file. And the crowd were booing and the smoke haze, and then they kicked off and they played a different brand of football to us. They kept the ball alive and they chip kicked and grubber kicked and threw passes over the top. And Australia weren't like that. It was different era, different sort of football. But that's why I fell in love with the game.
So Malcolm Riley, Sam Burgess, Tommy Bishop, is he in there somewhere?
Tommy Bishop was a great player. Come to play here in Australia, played with Cronulla Sharks, and so too did his son. There was fellas that Tommy Bishop played with back in those early days who were phenomenal footballers. Can't remember their names now, but and England had some competitive teams over the years. Ellery Hanley was a star out here in Australia and a star for Great Britain. There was a time, late 80s, early 90s, where Wigan were extremely strong. They won a couple of World Club challenges. They even come out to Australia and beat Broncos in the early 90s.
They did.
They had some terrific players in their side.
Then there were that batch of English players that came out here during the 80s and 90s, particularly to Balmain. Schofield and
Andy
Courier.
There were some great...
Andy Gregory came out here, didn't he?
Yeah, I played with I knew a couple of really old great internationals. Bill Ashurst and Mike Stevenson played for the Panthers. David Topless came out and played some time at Balmain and the Panthers. Learned a lot of football off those fellas. Used to play touch football with them before training. That was great memories. Wonderful memories.
You got to pick one more.
Just for memory's sake, Tommy Bishop.
Okay. Who's number one? Malcolm Riley.
Malcolm Riley might have been the best footballer I saw ever in that era.
Wow. Incredible.
Yeah, he was a really good player.
And Joey talks about him in revered fashion
Really
with his
good.
time at Newcastle
Really
as
good
coach.
player. He probably beat Australia in that Test series on his own. He was just phenomenal. Great, skillful ball player, but a tough, rugged man, intimidating and...
Love fighting.
Yeah.
Joey tells a story about how he used to call blokes on in the pub in Newcastle when he was coach.
I don't think anyone was...
and he'd beat them all.
I don't think anyone was questioning the coach back then. Yeah. When he was young, you ask him, he used to play Gus Lotto. So what he'd do, they'd all be driving home drunk at 3 o'clock in the morning in a cab, and he'd bet them how many rings it took for me to answer the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning. They'd bet on how many rings it took for me because I was always awake and I'd always answer the phone.
So you knew, when the phone rang at 3 o'clock, you knew what was going on.
Yeah. Or him and Matthew would ring at 3 in the morning. They'd been out somewhere having a drink. And Matthew would be on the phone talking football, and Andrew would be in the background kicking the ball up against the wall. You could hear it ricocheting off things. And
Funny.
He'd be practicing goal kicking in the lounge room at 3 in the morning.
Speaking of Britain, my wife has just sent me confirmation that she has procured some tickets to see Oasis play in Sydney in November.
Right.
Which I don't go out much anymore.
Make
but
sure
I'm
it's your
looking forward
wife,
to.
just in case you get on the jumbo.
Yeah. That's right.
Everyone's taking their wife to the... Yeah.
He wasn't real smart, that bloke, because he was in a private suite and the kiss cam was going right around the stadium, and he's still embracing his girlfriend.
Yeah, well,
it didn't take long for the rest of the world to cotton on, did it?
Yeah, I think the dumbness started long before that. Long before he got.
Well, that's true.
Long before I got on
That's
the
true.
jumbotron.
That's
Oh
man, how funny!
If there are football gods, there are other gods around.
The kiss cam gods.
Yeah, the kiss cam gods or what have you. But how to ruin your life in 10 seconds.
Funny. We'll take a break and we'll have a look at round 21.
Fans always ask, Lozza, what was the best era of league? And I tell them, nothing beats the line-breaking, flick-passing, goose-stepping, Vegas-flying, turbo-try-scoring, origin drought-breaking, simply the best era of footy we're in right now. And with more market stats and insights, it's easy to enjoy the best era in footy with the best app in footy.
Tab. We're on.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.
NRLW action round 4 of the competition. Every game live and free on 9 and 9 now. The odds thanks to Tab. Warriors $1.70 favourites to beat the Titans at $2.10. Roosters short price favourites to beat the Bulldogs. Cowboys $1.28 up against the Raiders up at Queensland Country Bank Stadium. Eels $2.20 against the Knights at $1.65. The Dragons $3.40 against the Broncos at $1.30. And then the Sharks are $1.20 to beat the Tigers at $4.40. You can catch all the action on 9, like I say, and Ruan and Marley with NRLW Weekly. Round 21 of the NRL starts in a few hours' time, in fact, at Allianz Stadium. Roosters up against Melbourne, and realistically they have to win this, because they're losing touch. They're a couple of wins outside the 8 now. He's made the big change in the halves. Everyone's been pondering why Sandon Smith hasn't been there. Well, he returns into the starting team alongside Sam Walker.
Did they have an explanation for that?
Trent Robinson said simply yesterday that the experiment didn't work with respect to Chad Townsend.
Okay.
Pappy's still out, so Meaney stays at fullback. Tyron Wishart's playing 5'8" because Cam Munster's away on personal leave, and Xavier Coates will play his 100th NRL game on the wing.
Mm-hmm.
So they've been shocked after he's always animated, Craig Bellamy, but man, he was off his rocker last week. He was very upset with their performance.
Yeah, well, with regard to Roosters, I was shocked by their performance against the Sharks. I tipped them to beat the Sharks. I thought they could beat the Sharks. They'd flogged the Sharks only, I remember 6 or 8 weeks earlier with an understrength side, and Sharks were at full strength. They flogged them up at Gosford, and I thought the Roosters side looked stronger than it did on that occasion, but the Sharks knuckled down and got the job done, and the Roosters I thought were poor, which has me hesitating a little bit here, because last weekend I thought I gave Manly a really good chance of beating the Storm. I said the prices are wrong. I said it's hard to bet against Melbourne in Melbourne. But Manly are in this right up to their back teeth, and in fact they won. They beat the Storm. I wasn't surprised by that. I was surprised the Roosters played so poorly against the Sharks. Not surprised they lost, but surprised they played so poorly. Otherwise, I'd be tipping the Roosters pretty strongly here. No Pappenhausen, no Munster, no Nelson Asofa Solomona. There are plenty of statistics being published today about the Storm don't lose twice in a row, and they haven't lost twice in a row for a few years, etc. But I don't know whether they've been able to accomplish that as under strength that they are. Again, the Storm are favourites, and they're probably going to be favourites in every game they play for the rest of the year. I think they should be a lot closer together in the market. The only hesitancy I've got is that the Roosters were just so poor last week. Now, I like the fact that Sandon Smith is back, and I'd assume then Sam Walker moves to the right side of the field, which I think suits him, which is my question mark of what happens next year when Cherry Evans turns up. And maybe that's why they went for the Chad Townsend thing, so that Sam Walker could keep playing on the left, where I guess they expect him to play next year. Sandon Smith, being a left-sided player, had virtually fallen down the pecking order there, which is why I think Chad Townsend was brought back in. Even when Sam Walker came back, I would have thought Hugo Savala was the one to go, but they went in a different direction. That's just how it is. So it's pretty obvious Cherry Evans is going to the Roosters, and it's pretty obvious that they expect Sam Walker to play on the left-hand side of the field, which is going to be an interesting, they'll have a whole off-season to get it ready, but I don't know that it helps Sam Walker's development, to be honest, going forward. So far as this game, though, I think Rooster can beat the Storm tonight. I certainly won't be surprised. I mean, Storm's the Storm; they can win every game. But at that price, I'd much rather be on Rooster than on Storm.
Roosters $2.30, Storm $1.62 on Tab. That loss last week ended a run of 6 straight for Melbourne, but it seems strange. But there's been times throughout that patch where they've been far from convincing, despite winning 6 in a row. It's
an awkward time of year too. You've got origins and you've got buys and you've got players unavailable and injuries, etc., etc. And people think when the origin's over, everything just goes back to normal. It never does. It always takes 2 or 3 weeks for things to sort of settle back down and players to get back into the routine and go from there. And you saw all the top sides last week, struggle in games that they were expected to win. Storm didn't win theirs. The others did, but they did struggle for a period of time. Raiders, Parramatta led them at halftime, the Raiders in their game. It took till the last minute of the play for the Bulldogs to beat the Dragons. And the Warriors took till after the last full-time siren to put away the Knights. So it's an interesting time of year where, again, upsets are on the card. So I'm not going to be surprised at all if Rooster wins tonight. I'm going to tip them. I think they've got a real good chance of turning it around. And Storm, they get them at a good time. No Pappenhausen, no Munster, no Nelson Asofa Solomona, and they get them at home at Allianz. If they're going to do something, they need to win this game. They're walking the tightrope towards the finals. I think Rooster should put up a good showing tonight. I'll be disappointed if they don't.
All right, you'll see it on 9 from 7:30 tonight. 6 p.m. tomorrow, North Queensland hosts the Dragons at Queensland Country Bank Stadium. John Bateman's on track to return from a groin injury in the back row. Murray Talangi's gone with a hamstring, so Braden Burns goes to the wing, Jackson Purdue to the centres, Tom Duffy comes into play 5'8". And for the Dragons, Matt Fino will play his first NRL game since round 7 because of the shoulder injury to Sione Finau. So Corey Allen goes to the wing, Fino comes into the centres. They've lost 8 games this year by 8 points or less, the Red V.
Yep, and their last 3 performances, I think they probably should have nearly beaten Canberra. Could have easily beaten the Bulldogs. And what was the one in between? They should have beaten...
You're testing my memory. Let me have a look.
Trying to think. It was one of the good sides.
They have not been far away at all.
No.
But can't fall over the line. Roosters.
Yeah.
They lost 31-24 to the Roosters.
Yeah, but
they led them, didn't they?
They should have won that game. They should have won that game. So they should have beaten the Raiders. They should have beaten the Roosters, and they could have easily beaten the Bulldogs the other night. So
Canberra beat them by 4, Roosters beat them by 7, Bulldogs beat them by 2.
Yeah,
it's the last 3 games.
Yeah, which is good form at this stage of the year. I think they're certainties. I think they'll beat the Cowboys, and Cowboys are favourites in this game.
There you have it. Friday night footy from Suncorp Stadium. The Broncos up against Parramatta. Jesse Arthurs returns from a rib injury. He's been out for quite a while. Corey Jensen's on track to return from a calf injury. He's been named on the bench. Now, Mitch Moses returns for Para, as we know. They've kept Dean Hawkins in the team in the halves, and Joash Papali goes to fullback. Mm-hmm. And Dylan Brown's in the extended squad. I thought you'd bring... If you're going to move Papali out of 5'8", surely you bring Dylan Brown in. Anyway.
I think you go mad trying to second-guess the coaches at this stage. I think a lot of these teams are sort of getting ready for next year, to just working on what's going to be available and giving fellas time in the middle. Can't knock the coach for doing that. There's some really good things happening at Parramatta. Whether it's going to be in time to beat the Bronco up there at Suncorp Stadium, I doubt. I think Friday night footy, I'm actually going up to call that one.
Cool.
A rare trip out of Sydney. So I'm going up to Suncorp, and I expect Bronco to win.
3 o'clock Saturday over in New Zealand. Charles Nickel-Clustar returns for the Warriors. Oh, man. Titans have got no Tino and no David Fafita. It's Dez's 500th game as coach.
Yep, Warrior.
5:30 Saturday. Danger game. Panther versus Tiger. What can I tell you? Liam Martin's hoping to make a return from his wrist problem, and Cleary and Yeo will come back in. They've named Brian To'o, but it looks like he's going to try and battle on with those problems he's been having, both both knee and hamstring throughout the year. So for the West Tigers, Isaac Thompson, big bustling wing, has been toiling away in the New South Wales Cup, and he's going to get a chance in first grade. He's got 66 tries in 76 games in reserve grade, has Isaac Thompson. Adam Dewey stays at lock, seemed to work quite well for them last week. And a whole bunch of former Panthers play against their old club as Tigers.
Yep. The clash earlier this year was really high intensity, wasn't it? The Tigers did really well against them, but Panthers got them in the end, and Panthers, I think, have got bigger prizes in sight. They're really starting to run into some form, and they too are walking a tightrope, but they've found their way into the 8. They can only lose their way out now, which I don't expect them to do. I think they'll be too strong for the Tiger.
All right, Saturday night, 7:30. That's at Gosford, this game. The Rabbitohs versus the Sharks. I'm not even going to bother going through the teams because Souths have got 150 changes.
Yeah, they're in a world of pain at the moment. Sharks should continue on their winning way.
2:00 Sunday down in Canberra. The Raiders hoping to continue along with their unbelievable season up against Newcastle. Simi Sasungi plays in the centres because Sebastian Chris has been ruled out with concussion. Noel Martin comes onto the bench. And not too many changes to that Newcastle team that was heartbroken last week.
No, the Raider has forgotten how to lose and the Knights have forgotten how to win.
Excellent summation.
Yeah.
And Canterbury up against Manly. Oh, how good a game. What a ripper in Sunday footy. Bronson Sherry expected to return from a groin injury. Oh, so Tilly's out again, is he?
Yeah, did his hamstring the other night.
How long's he out for?
Don't know.
Oh, man.
It's not good.
No luck for him. Big Hamali Olakawadu comes back too, Gus.
Yeah, he didn't play last week. Of course, they beat Melbourne in Melbourne, which is great form leading into this. They've got a scintillating back line and their forward strength is getting better by the week. So it'll be a tough one. These two teams played against each other last September, semi-final, first week of the finals.
Oh, one of the great days.
One of the great days. So just as much at stake in this game on Sunday. And it's a tribute to the 1995 grand final between the two clubs, Manly versus Roosters. So a lot of those 95 players from both clubs have been invited out for the afternoon, and it's a home game for the Bulldog out at Allianz Stadium. So get your tickets and get out there. I think it'll be a great afternoon.
Saw some vision of Terry Lamb reenacting him lifting the Winfield Cup the other day.
Sunday afternoon footy.
Correct me if I'm wrong. 95. The Bulldogs finished. They were well down. They made the finals, but they were in a lowly position, weren't they?
95 was the year that we went to 20 teams.
Yeah, it was a top 10.
I think it was a top 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Bulldogs had played in the grand final the previous year in 94. They were beaten by the Canberra Raiders.
Yeah.
And everything was disrupted with the Super League War on the 1st of April. The Super League War broke out and Canterbury was one of those sides that went with Super League, but a few of their players defected and there was a whole lot of issues going on at the club during the year. But as Terry Lamb described it, halfway through the year, they all went and had a drink together and decided, well, we've just got to put all this behind us and get on with it, which was a very common practice at the Bulldogs back in the days. They would sort of bumble their way through the first half of the competition, have a drink and say, okay, we're not losing again, and wouldn't, and we'd go through. I saw plenty of that myself. So, yeah, and I think they qualified sixth.
Yeah, they were sixth or seventh.
Sixth or seventh, but just went on an amazing run during the month and beat a very, very strong Manly side in those days. I think Manly went to 2 or 3 grand finals in a row and won one. Yeah, Bulldog beat them on the day in 95 and came from outside the top 5 to do it. We had a top 10 in those days.
Yeah. You had to be going pretty ordinary, not make the finals back then.
I think we went from a top 5 to a top 10. Back in the old days, the top 5. So no one had ever come from 5th position to win, let alone that. Well, Bulldogs the next year came from 6th.
Yeah.
And the way the finals were set up was a bit weird. I thought it was like 2 top 5s. And anyway, they had a good month of football, which is all they had to do, and they won the premiership. And that will be celebrated out there on Sunday with the Manly players and the Bulldog players. And
excellent.
Sunday afternoon football, a great crowd. So if we go back for the weekend of Rugby League...
So you like the Roosters at 2.30 over the Storm, $1.62?
I think the Rooster, well, they rocked me a little bit with what happened last weekend. I just shattered my confidence a little bit. I think Rooster can beat Storm.
Okay.
I think Dragon will beat Cowboy.
Cowboys $1.58, Dragons $2.40.
Bronco to beat Eel.
$1.23 favourites.
Warrior to beat Titan.
$1.29
Panther
Warriors.
to beat Tiger.
$1.25.
Shark to beat Rabbit.
$1.20.
Raider to beat Knight.
$1.20. And then the Bulldogs $1.62 against Manly, $2.30. We've covered some ground. You've got a lot off your chest. It's good to catch up.
Anything controversial today?
Oh, not too much. Just the first 45 minutes, but hey.
Was it?
You can send your complaints to, I don't know.
Send it to the 80s.
Send it to Claude.
I'll deal with it in the 80s. I'll go back to the 80s and warn everyone what's coming.
That's 6 Tackles with Gus for another week. I'll see you on the telly tonight. Gus is headed up to Brisbane tomorrow. Enjoy the weekend.